I went to college in Boston, and it was at a time when there were revival houses all over the city, and I saw three women at a revival house, Robert Altman's Three Women, and I'd kind of gone to the movies all my life and really liked movies, but I'd never really noticed the presence of a director before, which is kind of a terrible thing to say, but I didn't think of movies that way, and for the first time I thought, who was that? Who made that movie? And I thought, that's what I want to do. For some reason, an awful lot of actors come from kind of these peripatetic backgrounds. Army kids and missionary kids and kids of salesmen and IBM, that kind of thing. You'll always find that they've had these kind of itinerant childhoods. And the only thing I can think of is that it just teaches you that behavior is not concrete. I think a lot of people think that how you behave is a given, or that behavior is character. So they think like, well, I act this way, therefore I am this way. And one of the things that you learn moving around a lot is that behavior is mutable. And that's something that actors know. Obviously, we know inherently is that that behavior means different things, but you change it depending on where you are, who you are, what you want to accomplish. That's what you learn very quickly, is that I would go to one school and everybody would dance one way. So you'd go to the new school and you'd go to the school dance and you'd look at the gym and you'd notice that no one picked up their feet at that school, that they just shuffled their feet when they danced. So you're like, okay, so that's the way you dance here. So once again, you learn there's no one way to do anything. It just depends on where you are. It depends on what the rules of that community are. I was an excellent waitress. I'm very impatient with people who tell me that they're not, when people say that they're not good at waiting tables, I'm like, well, you're just not paying attention. On the soap opera, I was both a good girl and a bad girl. Now it's actually sort of a tragic day because As the World Turns was canceled yesterday. But that was a show that I was on, and I played Franny, who was the chief of staff of the hospital's daughter. So she had been born on the show, and she was the quintessential good girl. So I did that for a while, and then they created the role of my evil, kind of selfish, really, half-sister / cousin. We had the same father, but our mothers were sisters, so it was a kind of a convoluted relationship. The person who cast me in The Dresser, my very first director, said, you should be aware that because you have red hair, if somebody casts you, they'll be casting you for a reason, and there'll be things that you won't get because, visually, especially on stage, people can see you. But people have rarely suggested that I dye it. I've been wigged and things plenty of times. But the funny thing about it is that even when I have a different hair color, when I have dyed it upon occasion or I've worn wigs, people tend to still remember me as having red hair, even when I didn't in the film. I actually first met Tom Ford in 1998, right after my son was born. My son was born in 1997, and Tom made a dress for those Oscars the first time I was nominated for Boogie Nights. He made a really beautiful black dress that was chiffon and kind of had an empire waist, and because I had just had a baby, my boobs were really big and I just didn't feel confident enough to wear it. So, and that was the other thing about him too, he was incredibly gracious. He was like, it's a dress, I don't care, wear it, don't wear it, but keep it, I think I still have it actually somewhere. For a single man, I wasn't thinking about anybody in particular. I wasn't thinking about Anne Margaret, even though people have mentioned her to me. I was thinking about a particular kind of woman. She's someone who is very wealthy and very educated, and kind of a party girl. I had an English woman say to me the other day, you don't know whether they're posh or hammered all the time. So that should be, that's kind of where I started. I'd love to do a musical. It's one of the pathetic and secret parts of my personality that I love musical theater. We love all the High School Musicals too. Hairspray, I have to say, Hairspray is genius. What you're trying to do as an actor is portray the human condition, and sometimes we don't wear clothes. You know, people always ask that thing about families and children and nudity, and I always say, well, my children don't watch my movie. You know, people will ask me, what movies of yours do your children like? And I'm like, none of them, because they don't watch my movies. Because number one, they're not interested in, and number two, they're not movies for children, so they wouldn't be seeing them. I make these jokes about how my métier is tragedy. But it's not for, I don't know, not for lack of trying to do comedy. I think people think of me as a bore. Yeah, a tragic bore.